Hello, welcome to my channel. We're Blueprint Design and I'm Nikhil. And today we're going to make this animated chart in Adobe Xd. Now this chart can be designed for almost any graphical representation where you need to use filters or categories. You know what I'm trying to say in just a few moments. I'm designing this pie chart or a donut chart for a finance web application that would give an overview of the funding received by a company. Historically, in finance applications, animating these charts was not a norm, but this trend is changing. Now, I'm not saying we go crazy with animating everything on the dashboard, but keeping it subtle and using it only where it would elevate the user experience makes sense to me. I'm fairly new to YouTube, but I like sharing my ideas and knowledge with the community. So please stick around till the end of the tutorial. And if you like what you see, please like this video and share it with your network. Also consider subscribing to learn more about UX and design. So let's get started with Adobe XD. I designed this dashboard taking inspiration from a dribble post. I'll try to link the designer's profile in the description. We're going to recreate this chart. It's easy and quick with the latest Adobe update. So make sure you're using the most recent version of the app. If you want to use the starter file for this tutorial, I'll link this in the description as well. So let me first start by deleting this graph. I'm going to keep the legend labels towards the bottom and the filters towards the top, just because I want to keep this video short. So that's the graph, and I've deleted that graph. Firstly, I'll start with the Ellipse tool to create a circle with the size that we want, holding down the Shift key so it's perfectly circle and not an ellipse. And I lock the aspect ratio and set the height and the width to 320 pixels. For this circle, we are only interested in the border, so I will remove the fill color. And even in the border, we're only interested in the dash and the gap values for this animation. So gap and dash values are a new addition to Adobe XD in the latest version. So make sure you're using the latest version. I'll set the gap value to 1000. So basically the circle disappears because the dash has been set to 0. So if I set the dash to 500, we see half of the circle. And if I set it to 1000, you'll see the entire circle. You get the idea. Right now, I'll set it to 250, so it only fills 1/4 of the circle. I'll set the border size to about 60 to see what we like proportionately. Now, in my design, I want to have rounded corners, so I'll click this option to get those rounded caps. I'll arrange the layer in my layers panel accordingly to where I want it. And since we are looking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories in this chart, I'm going to duplicate this layer by pressing Command or Control D 3 times. I'll also create one more layer for the others category. So now we've got 5 layers in the layers panel. I'll start coloring the topmost layer with the main fonts category. So I'll set that color. Now I've added these colors in my list, but you can use any colors you want depending on your design. Accordingly, for the circle beneath the green one, I wanted to basically start from where the green one ends. So I'll rotate it, and now I'll set the color to blue. I'm choosing random colors over here. You can choose the color that you are okay with. Now I also want to set the dash value to something different from what it is right now. Okay, I think I did it with the other one. So there it is. So I'll copy this step of rotating the layers beneath the top ones so that we see the entire donut. For the layer which is all the way to the bottom, what I'm going to do is, instead of giving it a specific dash value, I'm going to set the dash and the gap both to 0. I'll set the color to something light, matching this category option. So there we have it. We have created the donut with all the categories we want. Now you can create the number of ellipses that you want depending on the categories that you're showing. What I also want to do is, basically in the area in the center, I want to show the price of for like the current selected filter. So I'll create one more circle using the ellipse tool and holding down the shift key. I'll align this accordingly, and I'll give this a border. So I'm just going to remove the border, but I do want to have a drop shadow, and this looks good, so I'm happy with that. I'll arrange it in the layers panel, and now I quickly add some sample text using the text column, text tool. I'm going to give it a reasonable font size, and I don't want to use this yellow color, so I'm going to use this darker gray. We can change that later if you don't like it. I'm going to create a copy of this layer holding down the shift key and the alt key. So alt creates a copy and shift is basically just aligning them together. So this is the total funding for this month. This is the change in funding from the previous month. So I'm going to give a lesser value, let's say 56,000, something like that. You can change these values. I'm again going to create one more copy. Now this is going to be just the label for MOM, that means month over month. I am going to center align these texts and give this an even smaller value. So now I want to highlight the total funding for this month. So I'm going to give this a blue color, and depending on whether for this month over month change, whether it was a positive change, that means a gain or a loss, I'll give this green or red. I'm going to group these 4 using pressing Command or Control G on the keyboard. That's the shortcut. And I'll name this value. I'm quickly going to group all the 5 parts of the categories of the donut as well. So Command or Control G, and I'll say, wanted to say graph. So there we have it. Naming and grouping the layers as you're designing is a good practice. Now I'm quickly going to convert this layer, which includes the categories for the donut and also the current value. I am going to right click on this and make it a component. You can also press Command or Control K on the keyboard, that's the shortcut. With this being a component, the advantage is that I can create multiple states. So my idea is that I'm going to create one state for each filter on the top over here. So this current component is for this month. And now I'm going to create one more state. So on the properties panel, if I click the plus icon over here, which says add state, and now I'm going to create a new state and name this last month. So in the previous month, I want to change the values of the funding categories. I'm not really interested in the individual values. We just want to indicate a change. So what I'm going to do is select the layer one by one and change the dash values. And now through the entire circle, I'm just going to change all the values one by one. So this is again the same process which I did the first time. So I'm going to speed this up. All right, so we have the values for the last month. Now I also want to add one more state to this component for this week's filter. So I'm going to again press the plus icon, click on add state, name this week, and follow the same process again. So I'll change the values. So we have all the three component states over here. So I wanted to include the filters layers and also the legend layers in the component. But you see with the component, we cannot just directly drag and drop these layers inside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two layers, cut those layers, and then paste those inside over here. So now we have these layers inside the component. I'm going to create another group for this. I should name this graph and this one as chart just to differentiate. Okay, so now we have the three component states. So I'm in the prototyping tab. I'm going to go down to the filters, and with the chart or with the component selected, we are on the default state. And now I'm going to select this week, and instead of just clicking this arrow and taking it to another screen, we don't have another screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click once. So it creates a wire, but we need to fill in all the other details. So with the latest update of Adobe Xd, I can choose the destination to be one of the component states. So we'll select this week, and I'm going to use auto animate as the type of transition or type of the action. Sorry, I'm going to choose ease in as the ease in out, and let me just quickly set the duration. So we have a smooth animation. Again, so this is the current month, so we don't have to create a wire for this. So with the last month selected, I'm going to click on this arrow and then add an interaction. So it's an auto animate. I'm going to select the last month and keep the other settings the same. So I'm going to quickly do this with the other two component states as well. There you go. So it's working fine, and you see those animations. And I also included a bar chart for you. So there you have it. A nice, sweet animated chart to show the funding categories for the different categories or for the financial web app. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. We also have an Instagram account where we share about the best practices in UX research and design. And I'd love to see the designs that you create. So feel free to send your designs to us on Instagram for reviews or suggestions. If you want us to create a tutorial on a specific topic, let us know in the comment section down below. As I said earlier, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel as we'll be creating more such videos in the future. Thank you so much for watching.